Hey, this is Mike, and today I'm going to talk about something called head bobbing in Game Creator 2. Right now I'm in this game here, my mall simulator game that I posted for the game jam, and someone had commented to me that the head bob makes them nauseous when they're trying to play it. So if you look when you're walking around, your head is going up and down, up and down, up and down. And some people can't handle this kind of motion and they can get motion sick from the head bob. So today we're going to look at head bobbing in Game Creator 2 and see if there's a way we can fix it and get a smoother experience and make it so that people could play the game without getting sick. So stay tuned. So before we get into the fixing of how to fix this in Unity and Game Creator 2, let's take a look at some other popular games and see how they handle head bobbing, if they do it or not. So let's look at some existing games. So Parcel Simulator is a first-person game, and a lot of simulator games are first-person. And you'll notice when I walk here, there's no head bob. It's just smooth, straight across. Even when I'm run, even when you press shift to run, there's no head bobbing. Here we are in The Witness. It's a first-person game as well. And as I walk around through The Witness, there is no head bobbing. You're hearing footstep sounds, but again, it's smooth across. So this is Wrap House Simulator. There is no head bob on this as we walk around the environment. Looks like we're in Greece, possibly. Um, yeah, no head bob. Okay, so here we are in Skyrim Special Edition. First person mode, and there is a little bit of head bob. You can see a little bit of the reticle is moving up and down a little bit. So this is Red Dead Redemption 2. Okay. As the player walks, you can see his head does bounce up and down. Along with the skeleton of this rig, the head does move. So now if I go into the first person camera using the V key, so we do have head bobbing in Red Dead Redemption 2. So you can see it's moving. So some games have it and some games don't. Alright, so back in Unity after we took a look at some examples of head bobbing, and we can see that some games have it, some games don't. Um, some people get nauseous when using it, so it's probably a good idea to give an option to the player. But we need to either turn it on or turn it off. But we need to figure out, well, how does this work? How does it work in Game Creator 2? And how do we turn it on and off, right? So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to create a simple environment here. Just a plain, I'll reset that, the old plain environment. And we're going to put the block material on it. So let's say prototype guide. We can also make this so that the tiling is better on this, so it shows more squares. And then so we're going to bring in the player FPS prefab from the examples, and we're going to put that at y equals 1 so that it doesn't fall through the floor. Okay, so by default, so now we're gonna create a camera shot, first person camera. And you see a head bobbing. We'll come back to this head bobbing setting later. Just set that to main shot. And I'm going to put something in the environment so that we can see more obvious if there is head bobbing or not. Because without objects in the environment, it's hard to see if something is head bobbing or if it's not. So let's okay, we'll put that there. So if the player is walking towards it, you'll be able to see it go up and down. So let's take a look at the default behavior here. So here we go. As I walk back and forth, you can see that that stuff is going up and down. There's head bobbing going on here. Okay, it's not smooth. Okay, so let's take a look then. So where would you think to turn that off is that head bobbing setting in the first person controller. So let's just say is active is off. Turn it off. So let's see if it's still going or not. Okay, it's still happening, right? It's still going up and down, up and down. You can see the whole environment's going up and down. So that did not fix it. So this head bobbing isn't really doing anything to this first person controller. So there's another suggested fix to this that I found in Discord. The suggested fix for this is to go in to the start state and take a look here. There's a state called FPS that is delivered with the examples. So you've got FPS. The FPS state has this FPS idle animation in it. So all it's going to do is this idle animation. So if we take a look at the animation, we'll see what it is. And if we play it, you'll see all it is the arms are idling in that position and there's nothing else moving. So if we take a look at this now with this state active, okay, so we've got the arms out in front of us and now it's smooth, right? There's no head bobbing whatsoever. You'll see the player on the left side, the player controller is just gliding, sort of gliding around the environment. There's no stepping, but you'll also notice something else is missing. The footstep sounds are gone. And now why is this? The footstep sounds are depending on the movement of the bones, right? So if we go into the mannequin, the armature, and we have the left foot, and I'm gonna put an icon on here so we can see them. So the right foot, and we'll put it maybe a different color, yellow maybe, and then or we can make them smaller, I guess. Be easier to see. Orange. Okay, so here we have those are the foot bones right there. So now they're actually in this weird angle, but I think it's because it's in some sort of default pose, right? So based on that animation. So now when we move around, you'll see the foot bones aren't moving at all. So that's why the footstep sounds are not working, because the footsteps here is using a fulcrum plane, what it's called, a fulcrum plane detector. And this fulcrum is this little plane, this round blue plane you see here. if you move it up, and you can move it up and down. So what it's doing, and the default is 0.85, but what it's doing is detecting if the foot bones are going up and down past that fulcrum plane, and if it does go below it or above it, I think it's once it goes below, from above to below, when it goes from one side to the other, it detects it as a footstep, so then it plays the sound. So with this player just gliding around the environment, the foot bones are not moving, and so the fulcrum plane detection does not work. So that you won't. So you could use this as a solution, but there's no footstep sounds, and you'd have to find another system for footsteps. So that's, for me, that's really not a viable option. I've been looking for good footstep systems on the asset store that are, you know, reasonably priced or free, and you don't find anything. I haven't found anything. So I'd like to be able to use Game Creator 2's footstep system, but this is not an option for me to use this FPS state, right? So the FPS state is just not going to work for me. So let's take it back. We'll get rid of it, and we're going to set the default state to walk. So here we go, and you'll see the foot bones as we walk around. And again, there's no footstep sounds because I have to readjust the fulcrum plane again. I believe it was, maybe move it up. You have to sometimes play around with it to see if it's going to work or not. Yeah, I think I need to move it down because move it down further down. So 0.92. Now we're getting it. So you do have to like play around with this. Say 0.9 maybe to get it to sound right as well. But that sounds better. So when you're walking, it sounds like 0.9 is the good. But when you're running, I think 0.85 works with the run state, the default state. So let's just say I want to use the walk state. I want to be walking around, getting footsteps, but no head bob. Because right now we're getting head bob, right? So we're still getting head bob. It's moving up and down. Okay, and it's worse when you're running. So maybe we do this, if we want to do this with the run state. It's more pronounced. Okay, well, let's say I just want to use the run state, but no head bob, right? So we've already turned it off. So where is the head bob coming from? That's the thing. We need to know where it's why is it still head bobbing when this is turned off? Well, apparently this head bobbing setting is for the camera only, not for the player. It's for the camera itself. It adds additional head bobbing on top of whatever the character is doing. So because the step height is only 0.02, if we move this up to like 0.2, for instance, you'll get a lot more head bobbing, or we need to activate it though. Let's turn that on. So now, oh, now you'll see it's way more pronounced with that 0.2. It's almost like a limping. It's going way more up and down than it was before. So that's the additional head bobbing, but there's still a built-in head bobbing going on here. even with that turned off, there's this head bobbing. So how do we turn it off? We need to look at the default state, so the run state here, and we got to see, well, actually it's not using any of those. It's using the defaults, which if we look over here in the mannequin FPS, it's using the complete locomotion animation controller. So if we go into that and look here, this big tree, these are all the default animations. So you've got stuff for crouching and walking. So everything you can do is in here. So there's all the walk animations are this human stand slow stuff, right? So, and the running animations here are, that's for, yeah, so the human stand fast R, for instance, animation clips, right? So if we go, we can find these here in the runtime 3D animations locomotion, right? So they're all in here, down here. So we can take a look at one of these. So it's the forward one is the stand fast F, right? So forward motion. So if we take a look here at it in motion, you'll see the head is moving up and down. So the head bobbing is actually coming from the animations themselves. So that's where it's coming from. So how would we fix that, right? The only way to fix this, as far as I can tell, is to edit the animations. So what we want to do is cancel out the upward movement of the head, right, in each of these animations, so that you could still, run forward but not be bouncing up and down. So how do we do that? Well, there's an asset called UMotion. So in the UMotion Pro is what you would need in the asset store. And this is often on sale, so you might be able to find it cheap at some point. But this UMotion Pro animation editor allows you to edit animations directly in Unity. You don't need to worry about like exporting them to Blender and doing it there. But so UMotion Pro allows you to edit them directly in Unity. So let's see how we would do that. What we want to do is they have a clip editor. So here's the clip editor here. But so we have this clip editor, and they have a pose editor. So you have to tell it which game object you want to animate. So that has to be the mannequin FPS, the one that has the animation controller on it. So we drag that in here. We can say create configuration so that it can actually do this. So now it goes into this pose mode here. You can see all the bones, right? So we still have our bones marked. So we have the human. So what we want to do is import the clips, right? So if we import the clips, we can add the clips. So if we're pointing at that locomotion thing, if we want the stand fast forward animation, we can open that and import it. Gives you some warnings, but those are okay. So stand fast F, and it gives you a list of bones that have animations on them. And these are rotation keys. And the only one that has an actual up and down, like position key or transfer, like in terms of how it's moving, is the hips, right? So as we play through the animation or scrub through it here, you'll see it's the hips that is moving up and down, that's moving the head up and down. So that's the problem. We need to cancel that out. There's a little head on the top, because all the head bone is doing is rotation. It's only being rotated back and forth, etc. It's using a rotation tool. So the only one we can do to cancel out that up and down motion is the move for a move tool is the hips, right? So that's what's driving this head bob. So what we want to do is go through each frame and look at the local position Y. We can lock out the X and the Z, and the local position Y, you can see it goes from 1.04 down to 0.94 all the way up to 1.06. And if we want to cancel out head bob, we need to be around 1.0, like 1.0, I think. So let's see, 94. Even that's going to be a problem because it goes down, up, down, up. So we want to adjust each one of these to go down to around 1.00. So all you have to do, and make sure this animation key, auto key is set to update so that when you make this change, it'll automatically update the keyframe. So we're going to go to around 1.0609. Okay, so we're just going to have to modify it like this. We just need to get it close enough to 1.0. And then you can't paste it in because it's going to give you that error. You just have to do it manually. So the walk animation is easier to do because there's less bobbing, head bobbing, so you only have to move it a lot less. But this one has a lot more motion in it, so let's see how this turns out. That one's already at 1, so we didn't have to do that one. Point 96. Okay, that's at 1. 104. 105. Okay, 105. And then this last one, 104. So we need the last one has to match the first one. So if we have 1.00609 there, it should be the same here. So 1 100,609, 100,75. I think we might be able to do it here. There. Okay, so that one, if we do it over here, it'll work, I think. So if the first one matches the second one, we should be able to play this now. Down here, we could play it and loop it and see what it's doing here. So now you're seeing this run animation, but the head is not moving up and down. So that's compensating for the, but you see the feet are, so it should still work with the fulcrum plane. So once you're done editing here, you can export this. So we want to export the current clip, and it's set to go into this assets animations folders, which was set up in the UMotion settings to go there. So that goes into here. So it doesn't affect the original animation. And so I've got it in here. So human stand fast F. And if we take a look at that in the inspector, now the run has no head bob. So moving it up and down to make sure the head doesn't move definitely helps. Like the rest of the bones compensate so that the feet aren't going below the floor, I think. So now, so once we have our animation, what we can do is create a state So we can create a game creator characters basic locomotion state. Or you could create an advanced one as well, but a basic locomotion state, no head bob state maybe. So here you can just override whatever default animations are being done. So we did the forward, so if we put that one there, that's the modified run animation. And we also need to make sure that the speed is set to 4 because that's the run speed. So that should do it. And then all we have to do is assign that state to the player. And then we can test it out. Let's test that out. Make that bigger. Okay, so now when we go backwards, we're going to see the head bob because we didn't touch that animation. But let's see what happens when we go forward. Now there's no head bob. So on the forward animation, let's go farther. On the forward animation, we're getting footsteps, but we're getting no head bob. So that fixed the issue. So that's the actual real good, best solution I've found is to go into each one of these 8. You're going to have to do all 8 of these animations and bring them into UMotion Pro, and then just adjust the hip bone so that it is around 1.0 in that neighborhood anyway, and just export it to a new animation and then assign it to your no head bob state and assign that to the player. I also have another one that I was working on that has the slow ones, so that one should work as well. So if I change that, it'll be the walk animations that it's using. That one I have left and right, back, forward, back, left, and right done on those. So now there's no head bob, but you'll hear the footsteps are a little off because we need to play around with the fulcrum plane. I think if you put it at 0.9, it might be better. So let's see. That's better, yeah. So playing around with that will. But if I go diagonally, there's still going to be head bob because I didn't, in this particular one, I didn't edit these ones. These are forward, right, forward, left, right, backward, left. There's separate animations for those as well. So you'd need to edit them all to get rid of your head bob. So that's working now. So you may have to play around with that fulcrum plane setting to get it to work properly, but it looks pretty good. If you wanted to give the player the ability or to like turn it on and off, what you would do is just switch the state. So basically the start state on every time the game starts, you could, let's just put an empty, we can just put a trigger here on start and then say state. You can say enter state based on if you could do a check conditions on like a variable, and if the variable is enabled, like say the Boolean for head bob is enabled, then you would just say the state. You would put it as the no head bob state, or if it is turned on, like if they want head bob turned on in the options, then you could just change the default state to walk, for instance. So that should, and now I have like head bobbing again because I'm in the default walk state. Or if I want the basic no head bob that I just created, but just the forward animation is that way. So it's as easy as switching the state that the player starts in. So that's it for this video. Hope this helped. It definitely was confusing to me how this head bobbing works. And I think it's important to know how to do this so that you can give the player the option to turn it on or off, because some people just can't handle it. And you don't want to exclude people from playing your game just because it's making them sick. So giving them motion sickness. So that is how to do it. So if you like this video, like and subscribe. If you'd like to be a patron, come see the Patreon link down below. And patrons do get early access to these videos before they drop on YouTube. And you can also private message me on Patreon as well if you have questions. So that's it for this video, and we'll see you in the next one.